Good morning. Good morning.
What's up, Amori? Can you hear me good? Testing, 1, 2.
Great new mic. Thank you for joining the 21st century. Awesome. All right, guys, let's get crack-a-lacking. Anthony, start the show.
What's going on, guys? Anthony Angelillo, branch manager over here with the Tag Team, powered by Paramount Residential Mortgage Group, CEO, founder of Tag Team Nation, top originator of the year with Miami Agents Magazine, co-host of Damage Control, the series, and partners with you with DC Consultants. So making some moves. Yesterday was good. Yesterday brainstorming was really good.
Yeah, it was good. Hi, guys. Melinda Grimaldi, real estate title attorney with Grimaldi Law Firm and the Closers Title Insurance Company. Excited for today's show because my co-host is very good at sales. So we're going to pick his brain today and try to become a little better. Sales is a really important part of business. Business doesn't happen unless you make a sale, right? We can't service our clients. We can't help families. We can't help people's lives become better. No matter what you do in any industry, right? We're always trying to help someone, right? That's what sales is allowing you to help someone. So if we don't have a sale, we can't help the community, right? So the reason why we're bringing this today is we felt we needed to go back to basics. We've talked about sales before, but sales is something that you can't ignore. Sales is something that you need to exercise. Sales is something that you need to get better at. Sales is something that you cannot ignore. So we want to get back to some basic tools, tips, tricks. We'll be going through those today. And, you know, I feel like people have a negative connotation when it comes to sales. Would you agree to that, Anthony?
You mean they stereotype?
They think that sales is a bad thing. Like, you know, if you're a business owner and you focus on like, of course, the importance of sales, I think if you've passed that level, but a lot of people like, oh, I don't want to sound like a salesperson. I don't want to sound like I'm pitching. I don't want to be that sleazy car salesman type of salesperson. There's a negative connotation when it comes to sales.
So you're talking about as an agent or a lender?
As a person, as a human being.
As a whole. I mean, look, we read it. We just posted it, 10,000 hours. You're not going to get better at anything unless you put the practice in.
But why do you think it has a negative connotation?
I mean, look, it was a non-regulated business. Most salesmen are in non-regulated business, credit card sales, car salesmen, non-regulated business. So, you know, there's a lot of tricks up their sleeves, and, you know, it's all about negotiations. And I think the stigma is ending. I think all of that concept of sales and sleazy car salesmen and selling snake oil I think it's gone. I mean, I want to say,
I don't know.
I think a lot of people now come to the conclusion where, you know, they're looking at sales and they know they have to get better and they have to practice. And I
think if you are at that point where you're looking at sales as a requirement for your business to grow and studying it, you have, you know, taken that leap of seeing sales to a different level. But I do think that sales overall, the general population thinks that sales has a negative connotation. They don't want to be pushy. They don't want to be that person. And so because of that, I think that's what stops people, you know, from making those sales calls.
And I think that comes with lack of training. And I think it comes with lack of skills, social skills. I think, you know, I don't like to be bothered. I remember when I used to go to Nordstrom's and I'd pick up a pair of shoes or some jeans, and I'd get swarmed with people just coming at me saying, you need help. No, I will help you when I'm ready, you know? And so I get
But see, that's also their job. So when I was in college, I worked in a boutique. It was my job to greet everybody that came in the door. So yes, and you asked, of course, you're going to ask, do you need any assistance? Because sometimes people do, and sometimes people are just looking, and some people's like, not yet, right? So, but what's worse than someone asking if you need help is if there's nobody asking at all, and you're there like, can I get some help, please? Right? Or people don't even know they need help.
Agree 100%.
Or they try to do it themselves and they knock over the whole pile of jeans. right? So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that there is a stigma, but not all sales are bad sales. If you're really out there to help people, right? Of course, we want to grow our business, but if you are doing things the right way in your business, you should not feel ashamed of selling your business, selling your services, right? So, and I think that story comes from somewhere, something from probably your upbringing or something you've heard or something you felt in the past. So that takes some unwiring, right? Or like rewiring actually is probably a better word for it, right? So we have to rewire ourselves to not think of it as something bad. If you're doing sales properly, and you're really out there to help clients, it's not a negative thing. You can't help them unless you pitch them your services, right? So I think that's the first thing in everything. If you look at a lot of the sales trainers, a lot of the coaches out there that teach sales, they almost all are mindset coaches, really, because sales
All of them.
is all in your head. Yes, there's like core skills that you can improve on, but it's all in your head. So I was listening to another podcast earlier this week on sales. He's a mindset coach, David Nagel, and he was talking about how you need to practice your pitch over and over again. And you can't be great or excellent at anything unless you've practiced and done it for at least 10,000 hours. That's where I got the number from.
So, it's
I don't
crazy.
know. So I don't know where that number is sourced from, but that's what he said. And he talks about, practicing scripts and everything. Go ahead, Anthony. Sorry.
So I'm not interjecting. That's part of the show right now. We're learning, but see, this is what I'm going to go into. We now are pushing on all platforms. You guys will see, and you'll hear about it. But now that we're doing that, hence why I got the mic, and now we're stepping up the game. But it's really listening to yourself and hearing yourself. We have film. And we have recordings, and I'm constantly reading data every day because I want to see how many calls are made, how many emails were sent, how many text messages were the right data was sent. There was an email yesterday that was sent from my ops manager, and I asked him, we need to bullet point this, and this. It's not being OCD or anal, it's the delivery. It's the delivery. People are literally dumbing down with technology, and they're on the go. They're fast paced. They're moving. They don't have time to read a long email. They just want bullet points. So that's something that we looked at yesterday. And at the end of the day, there's always, a recap of the day. And I said, look, that's something we want to improve on is the bullet points. So I think, honestly, it's really taken into consideration the overall business aspect and really understanding the consumer side. We looked at this yesterday, looking through our brainstorming session. Knowing and understanding the consumer is everything. Acting like the consumer, putting yourself in his or her shoes, that is everything that has to do with sales, period.
Okay. So anyone who's watching either live or, catching the recording or streaming later, they are likely interested in improving their sales. They should be, right? We all should be. So part of what I was listening, the 10,000 hours, like most people will practice their sales until they get a couple sales, right? And then they're working on their business and they're like doing other things, and then they stop working on their sales. But really, it's kind of like it's an exercise, it's a muscle, right? Like your sales pitch is something that you have to keep progressing on, keep improving. Because if not, you'll get stuck in those rookie era of clients that will hire you and price points or whatever, depending on your business. But the idea is to keep practicing no matter what, so that your game keeps improving, so that you can spit when you need to be. I saw a meme today that said basically in college, you're writing, I don't know, like a whole proposal to get someone to lend you money on a business idea, for example. And nowadays you got 30 seconds for a pitch.
You 3 seconds right now to get someone's attention.
Right. So that's a huge, right. So we don't have that much time to explain ourselves and how good we are and how what a professional is and what type of service. So the point of that I'm trying to make is you need to be able to spit fire real fast, and that only comes with practice.
That's what this book talks about, the hook.
The
That
whole
we're
point.
so inundated with content constantly. There's so much content that we have time, like 3 seconds to react and to really get someone's attention. It used to be 15 seconds. MIT did a study in 2016. So from 16 to 21, you've dropped dramatically. Like it's getting dangerous, man. So harder to sell. It's you got to brush up on your sales.
Attention span or less. And even if you pull someone out of social media and you're in a meeting, like you're in an elevator, you're at a networking event, you only have so much time, and that's all sales. Everything is sales, right? Like all that presentation of yourself, that's sales. So getting better at that pitch requires practice. That requires taking the time to sit down and think about what you're going to say when you're in that position, and then practice saying it. In this particular example I was listening to the other day, the example was you'll be there, you want to increase your prices, but you just feel uncomfortable asking for that price increase. So practice going 10 times higher, spitting it out, say it like 1,000 times until it's second nature, just rolls off your tongue.
Interesting.
That's what you guys need to be doing, right? So whether it's your elevator pitch when you're at an event, or it's how you're going to start your phone conversations if you're calling a referral source or a possible lead or a cold calling, all those are different pitches, right? They're different angles. So you have to be ready for you can't use the same thing for everybody. You're not going to handle a cold call the same way you're going to handle a warm referral, right? So understanding that you need different approaches and practicing those approaches is really the way to do it. Anthony, did you do a lot of, I know you are like, you flow when you're on the phone and you talk to people, you pick up on things very fast. I've seen you do it. So did you start off by practicing your scripts like that when you first got in the business? How did you start getting so good?
Honest to God, I was at the kitchen table. My grandmother to the left of me said, Anthony, you are extremely perceptive. She goes, you're a perceptive person. And I would just watch and I would listen, and I would constantly look around the room and literally listen to every single conversation that was going on. And being an Italian family, there was plenty of conversations going on, yelling, screaming.
Probably multiple at the same time.
Crazy. So the point is that I would listen. And so before I speak, I always listen. And that way I know what I'm going into. If I go for, it's almost like asking, the art of the sale is, you never go for the first, price point. Always ask them what you think the right price would be. And then they're going to give you, and then you can obviously hit a happy medium. But at this point, I listen and then I attack. And then I'll go for a close, and then I'll, continue the sales cycle. So there's technique, obviously. There's definitely delivery technique. But it all stems from really listening, and you have to be poised in the situation, and you have to really be calm. I'm like level 10 most of the time. And when I am like that, I find myself squirreling. And if I'm squirreling, I'm not paying attention, and then I'm not listening to the client's needs, which ultimately is the pain point. They're going to regurgitate every single time what they need help in. And it's your job to listen to then solve that issue. And that's what we'll go into. There's a couple steps that we have here. I mean, we've got quite a few, so we can roll through them and then elaborate on all of them, because I know that you've been through probably 98% of these steps. I think everyone on this Zoom and podcasts and everything that everyone's listening has been through all this too. But what's got me so good is the phones. I think if you can find a position to answer your question, I think the phones are going to make or break you. I think if I'm an agent, the first thing I'm going to tackle is the phones. Even if I don't want to do it, I'd put myself in that environment. I'd ask for old leads, new leads, stale leads. It doesn't matter. Talking to someone, listening to yourself, recording yourself, almost like video content. I was at the point of 18 takes the first time I was doing video, and now it's like one and done. We just did that, the other day, one take, done. That doesn't happen all the time, but that's happens when you're consistent at mastering your craft and becoming and training that muscle memory. So it's key to listen. I think the key in sales is listening.
Okay. So, but there is the initial like conversations or initial like practice responses that you can't practice having it easier to roll off your tongue. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Did you
100%.
practice scripts like that?
We've role played. Okay. We can right now, physically, we have our VAs role playing with Noel. He's doing that as we speak right now. Role playing and filming is what the athletes do. Michael Jordan watched film every single time. LeBron James watches film after the game. That's his routine. It's like second nature. He watches it to analyze his movement. And that's the concept. If we can sit there and watch ourselves and allocate time to, that time to watch film, in this case, I would say, listen to yourself, pitch. That's how you're going to get deadly. I have done that numerous times. Everything that I have is pretty much recorded. And I do that purposely because I want to know what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. And then I want to tweak the delivery. It's all in the delivery. You know that. You've said it a million times. But if you don't role play and you're in that, that atmosphere with your team and you're problem solving and dealing with objections, that's what a lot of agents have a tough time with. Now, I did this last night with Yannette. We spoke to an agent and we talked about 203K loans and how challenging they were. We weren't against them. We said we can entertain them, but then we gave them the pros and cons of the situation that could arise. And so taking that person that didn't know how to pitch about 203K and putting me involved, which is manager or your team lead, and listening. Shut up, listen, and really listen to the mentor or the coach in the room or the team lead or manager and take notes and then practice. Okay, and that's
then
how
make the calls.
action. Yeah. If you're not
And
taking
make the calls, because not like you got to go in the trenches and just practice and practice. So a lot of times people have blockages, Anthony, because they're afraid. I think they're afraid to be rejected. They don't feel worthy for the commission or whatever they're asking for. They have those things. Do you have any recommendations? Did you have any of those things that you felt uncomfortable with, or they don't feel maybe they know the material enough to be able to sell it? Did you ever, in the early days, did you ever experience any of that?
So the first thing here is effective communication, which we went over. Okay. It's all about communication. The second, and you guys will all get this, it's a 14 things that basically make or break a deal. The next thing is product. All right. I don't need business cards to sell myself. It's a pet peeve when someone, says I need business cards. That drives me nuts. That shows me that someone's insecure with the ability to shake a hand and make conversation. That's what really makes, that's my idea of it. If someone doesn't know product, that doesn't mean you can't sell. That doesn't mean I can go up to the person right now that's inspecting the building and have a great conversation with him. Lo and behold, he might need a loan, but I'll never know that if I not introduce myself. Do I need to know products to have a conversation with him? Yes, I'm going to feel more confident in my ability to pitch, but I have a whole team with 50 years experience behind me that can answer those questions. So my thought process, and people can agree to disagree. Yes, you'll know the products, but if you're going into the lending world, good luck. That's going to take a good 6 months to a year to really understand every product. And then the guidelines and the overlays and the restrictions. You're not going to know that overnight. So what do?
I think that's the same for an agent or any business, right? Like, do I know a neighborhood? Maybe you know about it a little bit, but you might not know all about it, but you could definitely and certainly find out or pull from your resources with regards to contracts and listings and processes. Those are things that there's classes there. You could take classes, you can come on our show, you can watch, different webinars and make yourself better. So you should be constantly improving your craft, whatever it is that you are in business for, in this scenario, as a realtor, as a lender in title. Get yourself better at what you do. but then also know that there's an art form to it. And it's okay to say, I can connect you. Why don't we schedule a call to connect you with so-and-so and myself? We'll do a 3-way call so we can get all your specific questions answered, because this is my go-to for those specific questions.
A doctor does that. I don't specialize in X, but I have someone who specializes in Y. It's the same.
Right.
You realize how the consumer, I just did this yesterday with the 203K. It's not our expertise. We do them. I can entertain them, but I'd feel more confident if I referred you out. Why? I'm not going to take on everything. If you have a mortgage broker saying we do everything, that's a recipe for disaster. That's my humble opinion.
Okay, but like, even if, let's say that is something you do, you just don't know how to explain it, right? Like, let's say it is something that your team is doing, but you don't feel confident because you are newer or you're just not sure about something. The concept of bringing this up now is to let people know that they have to get over the fear of saying, I can find that out for you. Or let me conference somebody in for those particular questions. The reality is the initial sale conversation does not get too technical. Would you agree?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what the fear is everyone thinks, oh, they're going to ask me about FHA or VA or USDA. What do I say in that scenario? When that comes up, it's a great question. Let me answer that. Let me ask my manager. Let me get back to you. There's so many rebuttals that you can train your mind to really, object and handle and close and solve the issue. But it's getting on the phones. If I'm a real estate agent brand new, all right, I would focus the elephant in the room. We talked about this in last episodes. Don't look at the elephant. Look at one of the legs. All right. And if that is 3 to 4 products, or you want to know about, I don't know, FHA and know everything there is about first time home buyer grants, whatever it is, practice on that. Stay in that lane for a good month and then go to the next. People look at stuff and look at it in one entirety and say, this is way too much information. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. And the reality, like we said, the conversation very rarely gets very technical right up front. You could always say, I could pull up the guidelines. I can call my lender. I can call my attorney. Let's conference them in and let's get that question answers. Or I'll look it up. Let me look up the comparables and I'll let you know. And then you can get some assistance that way and send it to them by email, right? So you can collect information and send it to them later, schedule the follow-up already so that you have that built in. So don't let the amount of years you have in business deter you from feeling confident. That's something that comes from within. And as long as you keep educating yourself and surrounding yourself with other mentors and experts in the industry that you can pull from information from or guidance from or a second voice from, you need to get over that. Now, that comes from practicing, that comes from continuing to learn, that comes from knowing who you're going to call. Don't think about it in the moment who you're going to call. You should already know who are my go-tos if these questions come up.
Yeah.
So, but as you can see, a lot of these things are in your head. So you need to be ready you need to go into that analysis of what it is that you feel you don't feel confident about. Is it because you don't understand the products or the process or the contract or the area, the neighborhood, the price point, right? Is that what's making you uncomfortable? And then working your way to make yourself feel comfortable by practicing, educating, and acting as if until you do feel comfortable, right?
Your one of your gals did this yesterday, whether she knew it or not, and I think she did because your training's amazing. She sat there, she got a phone call when we were brainstorming. Client called, said, I had a death in the family. How do I quit claim title? She paused, she took notes, she asked questions, she solved the problem. So she shut up and basically listened. All right. So and handled the objection that the client had, which was ultimately the pain point. So I think that technique comes with training, but it also, the finesse and the delivery comes with, 10,000 hours and experience.
Yeah, exactly. And practice, right? Practice. So in our industry, would you say there's a lot of negotiations in the sales process, not negotiating for your client's contract, but negotiating for the commission? I think there are some list, like for listings, they're gonna, especially nowadays, negotiate down the commissions, or maybe asking for things to be waived. I don't know how that works in your world, Anthony, if people are really saying, what's the rate that I can get, or trying to negotiate what you can offer them in terms of costs. So do you have any suggestions for people who are put in the position where they're asked to take less than what the usual share is?
Let's role play right now.
To start like from the beginning, before you even start working. I know your position on like later if someone needs to throw a bone in to get the deal done, but I'm talking about in the initial stages, where like what tips do you have when people are trying to say, like, you know, I'll give you a listing for 1.5% instead of, you know, 3% commission for you, you know, or you know, try when people try to, I don't negotiate my fees. My fees are my fees. I do have discounts for in the business, friends and family. I do have discounts for return clients, but we're not the swap shop. You know, that's my line. So, and I strongly encourage other professionals never to tell other people to lower their fees, because you don't like it when someone asks that to you. So don't be the person. If the client wants to, make the client do it. You know what I mean? But
So-
when you're put in that position on a sales call, someone's like, oh, but that's too expensive. Like, or I could only do this. How do you have any guidance or feedback on that?
Yeah, if somebody calls me, and I get this all the time, what's your rates? What's your closing costs? It's it. 2 questions. It's the same 2 questions, different person, different day. I'll pause them, and my rebuttal back is, I don't know anything about you. I can't just out of thin air come up with an interest rate. It's derived on many factors, loan to value, you know, income, whatever that's going to be, how much you're really putting down, whether it's more than, you know, 20%. If it's a condo, it's a single family home, those are pricing adjustments. And I'll keep going in, and then they're going to stop. They say, okay, well, what is it going to be around? I can't give you that either. I don't even know anything about you. Why don't we sit down and take an application? So right off the bat, that's somebody that's trying to control the conversation. Most agents will answer that question. Once you answer that question, you're done. You lost the deal. You got closed, basically, as Grant Cardone would say. So you need to control the conversation, and the feedback that that person is giving you. Great. You're agreeing with the client, you're acknowledging, you're isolating the situation, and then you're going to object and rebuttal and handle what that person is asking. So if this case is going to be, what's your rate, as we're role playing here, hypothetically speaking, what my rebuttal back would say, I don't know anything about you. Let's take an application, so that way it's not the blind leading the blind, right? Let me really see what we can qualify for, and I can give you 3 options. I'm not here to just give you one rate. Now in a regulated business, you can choose your rate. What do you want? Low, medium, high? Do you want to get paid points? Do you want money back, SRP? I mean, whatever the case is. So that delivery now gives them more confidence to say, okay, wow, I do want to take the application. Their fear is probably pulling credit. They don't want to pull credit and have a million pulls. There's a rule on that. So then we'll give that information in 45 days that they can go buck wild and pull all they want. So that's key. You were going to ask what?
So what I'm pulling from what you're saying, because obviously the majority of our listeners are not loan officers. So what I'm pulling from what you're saying is that they have to remember what the rebuttals are likely going to be to have that response ready.
Here's another one. All right, let's do another role play. I'm already pre-approved. They get this response, right? They must get that response. I had it 2 times yesterday. Already pre-approved, working with a lender. Why would it be wise for an agent to send it to their own lender? Let me ask you that question. Try to riddle me that.
Are you asking me a question?
Ask
Oh,
it.
you want to have a better control of the transaction. If it's a loan officer that you know, you're able to communicate better. You're able to have direct communication. You know the process, you know the team. So if there's problems, it gets resolved faster. So that's exactly what you would use in your discussion. I would presume that's where you're coming from,
There
of
you go.
why that's exactly when someone asks me for a recommendation, not as common, but it does happen. That's exactly what I say. You could, who are you using? I always ask that question. They tell me who they're using. Okay, that's fine. Here's my feedback if I know them or not or whatever. And then I also have recommendations for you if you'd like. I can give you 1, 2, 3 options to call around, up to you what you're looking for, and to be able to these people will pick up the phone when I call when there's a problem.
You've already memorized that pitch pretty much.
Because but it's because I know it and I feel it, and I want people to go that route, right?
You know, everyone you work with, they're badass, no point intended. I'm talking about agents.
Yeah.
In general, you know that the person in Palm Beach, she's amazing, right? You know, the person in Miami-Dade that you work with, she's amazing. So you're painting stories. When an agent gets approached that way, I would humbly suggest, here's my options. This is what I refer business to. You can give them the 3 options if you want, and have them all, call all 3 options. But the negotiation part is you controlling. That negotiation comes if you don't control the client, you're not controlling your paycheck. And then that client now is going to go to another loan officer who might have a relationship with someone else. And that's where leads get lost.
So what about, do you have any tips for a listing agent where you have a seller trying to reduce the listing agent's commission? Well, nowadays things are selling so fast, like, you don't even need a whole 3%. It's not going to last for more than 1-2 days.
I would talk
I
about,
have a rebuttal that I would say. What would you say?
I would simply, I'd pull out my numbers and I would say, look, these are the numbers that I had, and this is why I can get top value for your price, for your home. All right. This is what I offer. I know Natalie has this. She's got an entire package. I would say, look, I would never cut costs. You're selling yourself short at that point, and you're giving in. I would talk about your success stories. I would paint pictures. I would motivate the client. If they're still going to say, I'm not doing it for X, talk about the value proposition on, how much you bring to the table. And I would possibly even say, talk about, maybe cut in costs in a different area if cost is adamant with that client. What were you going to say?
Most of the time, it's not the commission is not making or breaking a deal, especially nowadays. In the past, I have seen, we really need a net sheet to know exactly the closing costs, so the seller is not like having to come to table with money. So there is those rare scenarios, but they're not as common. The reality is right now the industry is so crazy that a good listing agent will be able to manage multiple offers, give you the proper comparisons, review the offers. No, I'm in the industry. I know the people. I know who's submitting these offers. I can look them up. Here's my strategy of how I do it. I don't half-ass it. You can go to list your own property, but then you're going to have hundreds of people calling you. You won't know how to look at those offers. You're going to be on your own. And that's just so you being ready to say how you handle and why, even though it's so easy to sell your house nowadays for most properties, there's still a lot to maneuver and navigate in the process. And the average seller does not know how to look at offers, does not know how to host an open house. Do you want 100 people coming at different times to show? No, nowadays you do one open house. This is when you're going to come and this is when you're going to see it, right?
So what I would say too is, which is what I usually say, if they're a listing agent and they're accepting offers, how do you know what to accept? As a listing agent, if I was a listing agent, I would eat, sleep, and breathe how to read a DU. We have a class on this. And then that is a good play. That's your ace in the hole for me to say, look, I'll read your DUs. I'll have my banker look at it. I'll make sure that we're not going to be in any 11th hour issues if there's financing involved. So it's really holding yourself accountable and delivering the goods, right? The other thing too is I get a lot of agents who call me, buyers who call me saying, I don't need a buyer's agent. I'm going straight to the listing agent. I won't entertain that. And I'll simply humbly tell them that. I'll say, look, I'm not playing that card. If you're going to play that card, you're definitely going to seek, a title attorney. I know one, obviously you, because they don't know how to read contracts. I'm not going to who's going to look at the contingencies? I'm supposed to do that. I'm not getting paid 3%. So when that goes sour, who's going to go into litigation? So, I mean, it's a slippery slope. When you express that to them in a tactful manner and you deliver the pros and the cons, which is called a Ben Franklin close, they're going to look at both and one's going to outweigh the other one. And you're going to simply say, all right, I made the decision. I've had enough to make the decision. I'm choosing you. I get it. You sold me.
Awesome. 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 So when it comes to social media, a lot of people are trying to do direct sales on there. So like they're posting, do you need an agent? Call me, DM me. Would you say that's sales or is that more marketing?
I think that's marketing.
That's like, right. And just trying to solicit, finding a lead.
It's all marketing. I think what sells is the DMs, and you build in rapport, and the social selling is all in the DM. So you can't just expect to build rapport on a heart. You need to really build a rapport and actually give a shit, as you say, gas calls. In this case, I would physically, talk to them and build a rapport. If there's food that, you just put on stories and they said, oh my gosh, that's amazing, I wouldn't say, hey, thanks, sucker, you're not eating tonight. I am. I would simply build rapport with that agent, that person that's actually engaged in your story, whether it's a client or not. That client, even if it's the past client, I'd still, engage with them, because then I could say, hey, look, at the end of the day, thank you so much. It was nice to close your loan out. A year from now, anybody let us know. Pleasure speaking with you. So that give a shit call in that DM, like you say, that's the way I would sell. That's going to sell and that's going to close.
But that's a long game strategy, right? That's not short term. Those are likely long term rapport building. And so it's not really selling in the moment, which means don't rely on that for your sales that you're focusing on every day. You need to set the time to work on the sales directly, because if you don't focus on it, it won't happen. And I am a really big sucker for this, because I've always put that I have to do an hour of calls every day. And that's the last thing I get to. And I usually don't get to all of it. And I maybe do a few calls and I don't really set the time for it, because I'm with you guys. Like I realize I don't like it. I have to stop saying I don't like it, because I think that's part of it, that I'm not good at it or anything like that. But I know a lot of parts of it. So I think I just gotta practice and get back into that, that thing. And then realizing that, phone sales, social media sales, selling from the stage, selling from the video, it's like all different. They're all parts of the sale process and the marketing cycle, sales cycle. You just got to, you just gotta like force your way through it.
So what I would suggest though is define prospecting. When I say, hey team, we need to prospect, I'm not saying go cold call and even warm leads. There's different stages of those leads that come in. I'm simply asking them to prospect and physically call anybody. And there could be different days. You have to group things down. We have things now literally drawn out to the point where Monday, this time block, Tuesday, that time block, Wednesday. And so it gives them structure. And I think that a lot of agents and lenders lack is structure. And I know you would agree with me on that. I think prospecting in general could be, you simply making a phone call to a past client. I think a lot of people don't realize that, right?
So, oh yeah, for sure. Prospecting is that. I think that people just get afraid of it because they don't have a plan. They don't know who to call. They don't know what to say. So mapping it out, I think if nothing else you get from the show is to map it out of what, who you can call, what you will say to them, depending on the role of the person, and when you will call them and how many calls you'll make a day. I think you'll get really far. We tried to do a sales challenge earlier this year, and we started off really strong. And what happened was people got busy after a week of making calls, and then they stopped making the calls. and
Yeah.
went right back to their old ways. So I want to go into that a little bit because I was having a conversation about this the other day with my husband, and we're like, well, it's really about the consistency, but the 1 week challenge is not enough. So we did 100 days to try to push you guys to go through the 100 days, but no one stuck to it because it actually works. So after a week, you start getting busy with the people you called that week, and then all of a sudden, you put your calls on the back burner because you're working on your deals. But then what happens? That's the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur, being self-employed. So you really need to stay consistent with the sales and the calls, and it will keep you consistently busy, and you got to carve out the time. So a lot of very serious agents that do really well, they have different, some will set out a block of time, some will just have a number. I need to connect with this many people today. But they make sure they hit those numbers or those hours for calling and prospecting and following up with people. And I'm telling you, it goes really, really, really a long way. And I'm not talking about calling to follow up how your current deal is going or your friend. I'm talking about calling people in your circle, calling people in your referral sources, calling people that were past clients, and calling people and following up with people who have expressed interest, which is the most important, and understand the hierarchy of that and which ones are the most time sensitive.
That's what I wanted to elaborate on. So we talked about prospecting, and I think what lacks in our industry, I know because I'm looking at the data every day, and what I'm about to launch shows this. The bottom line is that there is a lack of prospect skills, number one, and following up in the prospect. If I told you the amount of prospects we have, you'd be blown away. The concept though is that if we can as a team collectively follow up and then have a second voice to that follow up. So for example, if you sent me a lead and I made conversation with that lead and I took the application and my next step is to follow up for documentation, and something happened that person did not respond or reply, or 2 days goes by, 3 days goes by, that's the type of follow-up skills that I think this industry is desperately lacking. And when I mean desperately, you have a 1% conversion rate on Zillow. So if that puts it into perspective, that's how much numbers are just being washed down the drain. The follow-up, the money's in the follow-up. And I think that the conversation that happened during that lender time, or the conversation that took place during the buyer's agent consultation, that's where the communication either freaked out the consumer, which is the borrower, and they opted out. So what I do with Brian very well, and I did it with Yannette yesterday because she's just stepping in, and she's got 5 closings right now, this gal, she's killing it. But the point is we role play, number one. Number two, I'll second voice and she'll listen to me. I will get on the phone, close the sale for her. Not going to do that a third time. That's 1, 2, and 3, and we're done. So that person needs to retain the information. If your manager is not doing that, and if you don't have a manager, then you need a mentor that's going to help you out with that. But if your manager's not doing that, that's something I would start implementing, or ask him or her to say, hey, look, I need a second voice. They're not responding. Something you said, or the person you referred that lead to said, that went sour in that conversation that led to a stale deal. And I think the follow-up stops. And when the follow-up stops, the issue is now you just lost that deal.
And sometimes like if someone's not responding right now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to never respond. Right? So there's strategies of rekindling that connection that there was. And do you have any suggestions for how to reconnect with someone that's maybe sent you to voicemail or not returned text message or emails?
I have a whole tutorial on it, but to basically sum it up, 44% of the agents don't make a second call. It's almost 50%. If we send a lead to the gals, oh, they didn't respond, I left a voicemail. It's not enough. No one's even checking voicemails anymore. I would physically do a video and send it to that person and introduce myself. You got to go above and beyond. Like we just talked about in the beginning of this show, you got a 3-second attention span. Good luck. All right, it was 15 seconds, right? So how are you going to get their attention? You need to be creative. Text message. Hey, I just left you a message. You're referencing that you left them a message. Who the hell are you though? Don't say I left you a message. Give them the contact V card. That's your V. If you don't have a V card, you have to make one. Create one on your Droid or your iPhone, and make it nice. Have landing pages. Have a call to action, and that's the way I would approach it. I would physically email, text, call, video, not in that sequential order, ETCV, and that is effective. That is 6 to 9 attempts is what it takes to actually convert a lead.
And the
All right.
attempt is any one of those options that you gave.
We see sales activities now. So there's a new column in our data that says sales activities. I am analyzing from the real estate standpoint to our standpoint. Why? Because I want to know how we can improve sales, how collectively as a team, this community can get better and better. I mean, that's the whole point of DC, right? So the activities, if there's only one activity, my team's not doing their job. There needs multiple activities going on.
That's good stuff. And the reality is we can't keep all these reminders to follow up in our head, which is why a CRM is so important. Super, super important to make sure we stay on top of our follow-up workflows. And that's what a CRM will help you do and leave you, okay, left a message, had a scheduled call, they didn't pick up, whatever it is. And then you put a reminder, okay, call back. So I try to do this with my client CRM that we have. I put a task for someone to follow up, or what the last conversation was, or if it didn't happen and it was supposed to happen. So when I'm on my game, that's being done very smoothly. So that's a really good strategy for you guys. I know, you've heard us say it before. We'll say it again. A CRM is a lifeline of your sales. And you really need to use that to manage the relationships, because we can't keep it all in our head, and we can't keep it all. Like sometimes I have things I have to like scroll down, like to see, like, I think I forgot to respond to somebody, right? And like, if you just put it down, I have to put reminders for myself to respond, because maybe in that moment you're doing something. So the purpose of me bringing this up is to say you need somewhere to jot these things down. And honestly, Post-its are not the way to do it. Post-its, even notepads are not good for that, unless it's a temporary fix for you to just jump in and put it in somewhere to track better. Because if there's no data, if there's no reminders, if there's no follow-up, the lead is lost, right? So we need to make sure we stay on top of that. Any final wrap up, Anthony, in terms of tips? If someone wants to get better, we're going to send you guys a bunch of tips after the show if you're a subscriber, but I'd love for you to like kind of wrap it all up for us today.
So okay, the last thing I'll end with is, if they want to get better, it's called adaptability, man. And Kobe Bryant said it best: adapt or die, right? So, and I just had this conversation with one of our reps. He's like, look, my mentor said I'm doing it the old fashioned way. And I'm like, hey, well, you better listen, because things are changing, evolving, technology's real. And if somebody tells me I don't know how to do it, that's an excuse. All right, it's a simple excuse. We didn't know how to do this show. All right, we just did it. We ran with it. We're constantly growing. We're adapting. And we're now, going to be streaming on all platforms very soon. So the point is that we didn't know how to do that. We adapted in that environment. Otherwise, we know that it's not going to work. The show's not going to survive if we don't adapt, right? So if you're treating this as a business, as Melinda says, and not a hobby, you need to train yourself. It's not, hey, I just got good genetics, I look great. Your ass needs to train, man. Period. You have to consistently train to get better. So adaptability in every aspect, right? Right now, I'm going down uncharted waters. That's why you guys haven't seen me post a lot. And yeah, maybe a rabbit hole or not, but I'm learning. I'm constantly growing. I'm reading. I'm educating myself on how to do what I am trying to do, right? So that is really the foundation of everything that we're talking about. I think that in general is sales. If you don't know how to sell, you need to learn how to sell. Right? Otherwise, your family's not going to eat. And you put yourself in that position, you're going to learn very quickly. All right. So adaptability, I feel, is something that we're seeing with the industries that are changing. You were talking about Ron. That's going to be adaptability. with people not closing, physically going to closings anymore. That's going to take some getting used to, right? So what are we going to do? Are you even thinking about that? Oh, I'll wait till that time comes. I would want to be proactive, to think of ways to be innovative to try to, sell myself. That type of mindset, that forward thinking, like a chess player, very, very key success in sales. Like I'd say that's my go-to game. Is I'll know 5 steps before the person even speaks and what they're going to say. And that's what makes someone a good closer versus someone who's just puking from the mouth trying to sell themselves. And that is where you get that stigma of that car salesman.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, I think the stigma and some of the drama surrounding sales comes from the scarcity mindset, that like limited mindset where if I don't get this, I'm screwed kind of thing. We need to be focusing not on the one deal, but on that there's enough deals out there for everybody, and that, you cannot be sounding desperate.
Oh, worse.
And if you come from a scarcity mindset, you will have that desperate tone no matter what. So working on your mindset is my recap of today, because it makes a huge impact on how you are perceived and how you communicate and how you follow up. So
Fixed mindset too. People have fixed mindset that they're not going to adapt or change in their old habits. That's an issue too.
100%, 100%. Good stuff. Okay, guys. So I want to remind you, if you don't have a CRM, if you don't are not working your email list, we have episodes about those. So check out our archived episodes. There's a lot of information there about CRMs, other sales episodes. That we've been doing this show for over a year now. So there's a lot of great episodes. If you're a newer subscriber, you do have access to those older episodes. So we'll put all that in the show notes as well. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And hopefully you will implement something that you learned, because all this education is great. But if you don't implement one little thing at a time, you're going to be right back where you left off before this, this show started. So we hope that we inspire you to take some action. And we hope you enjoyed the show, and refer us to your friends that are in the industry and looking to improve their business, improve their skills in real estate and in business. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next show. Have an amazing day.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.